Good afternoon. My name is Ronnie Mandler. I am the president of Best Energy Power. Best Energy Power is known to have the biggest market share of solar, commercial solar, meaning co-op, condos, and privately held buildings. About 22% of total installation in the 5 boroughs were done by us. What I'm trying to say, we have the knowledge and the experience. First of all, I would like to speak about Solar 101, meaning how solar works. Then I'm going to present actually all the numbers so you'll understand where all the subsidies are coming from and the return of investment, which is so well in New York City, in the 5 boroughs of New York City. So solar PV works on sunlight. We calculate in our area 4.5 hours of daylight on average of 365 days. So when you hear 4.5 hours, it sounds very low, but it's an average. December short day, June long day, cloudy days, snow days, bright days, nice days. That data comes from the energy department and it's calculated over the last 30 years. If you remember last year, January and February, we had a lot of snow. So the canopy was covered with cloud, less amount of light. But then October, November, we had nice bright sky when usually it's like covered with clouds. What I'm trying to say, the average does work. It is 4.5 hours. There is another excellent example. June is the longest daylight, June 21st. If you remember, a few years ago, the whole summer in the months of June, it was actually raining for the whole month. Actually, somebody said it went twice, once for 10 days and again for 2 weeks. But I'm trying to say the whole month. So June, which is the longest daylight on the average, we were covered. That year in December, we had nice bright skies. So actually it offset the bad weather or the less amount of light that we had in that June. We have a law in New York which is called net meter. Net meter means that actually the utility acts as a bank. In June, because you have more of a daylight, you're going to produce on the solar system more than the building needs. So all the average is going back to Con Ed. U meter literally goes backwards. So you take kind of kilowatt and you deposit it into Con Ed. Con Ed takes those kilowatts, sell it to your next door neighbor for a full price. Once you need those kilowatts to be retrieved either the following night or in the winter time when the daylight is much shorter so you don't produce enough, you're either going to get it back or actually Con Ed is going to give you credit for those months that you overproduce. So it acts like a bank. You deposit, you take back, or you use the full extent of what the solar is producing. Solar panel has a warranty of 25 years. Somebody giving you 25 years warranty means nothing is going to happen. Because these days, if you get 15 years, you'll be happy as well. Going the extra mile and giving you 25 years, it's a very long statement. Nothing is going to happen to this. By the way, the warranty is on the output of the panel. Because when you install solar panel on the roof, you're not interested about the solar, you're interested about the output, what actually the panel produce. The manufacturer gives you the warranty on that particular output to make sure over 25 years, the first 11 years it's 100%, then goes to 90, and then 11 to 25, 80%. But you are getting warranty on the output, and that's the most important thing. Solar has two side kind of effect of advantage. Number one is protecting the roof membrane. The actual roof membrane being deteriorated by what we call the abuse of the weather, mainly direct sun, then wind, snow, rain. Now you're going to be covering this with solar panels. So basically, if the lifespan of the membrane of the roof has 5 or 10 years, now you're going to have 20 or 30 years because that abuse of the weather is being taken by the solar panel. By the way, the solar is absorbing it. There is no glare because the whole idea of the solar panel is to absorb the light of the sun. So there is no glare that you have to be worried about. So basically you are extending the warranty or the life expectancy of the roof membrane. Another thing that it adds, you're putting it on the roof, a little above the roof. So basically you have trapped air over there. So if you have kind of another insulation with trapped air, you're going to protect the building in terms of energy. It's going to be stay warmer in the winter and cooler in the summer because you have better insulation on the envelope of the roof. It's very hard to calculate because light like wind and other stuff comes from the side, but on the top you're going to get more insulation. We are producing what is called DC power. The actual system is generating AC power. Is this what you use in the building? So we have inverters, and we use a very sophisticated system. The sophisticated system is called Solar Edge. Every panel is going to have an optimizer. If you have an optimizer and you connect it to the internet, basically you can always review and view the production of the system. One of the main questions that I'm always being asked, okay, what about maintenance? The only maintenance on a solar system is once in a while take a look at it and say, wow, how beautiful it is. And the reason why I'm saying it, I'm sure all of you have a calculator, that desk calculator, which has that small strip that it works on light. And I'm sure you have it for 10 years. It fell on the floor. You spilled some coffee and some food crumb, and yet whenever you push on, it works perfect. No cleaning, no service, no degradation, no nothing. Basically, that small strip, you're going to enlarge and put it on the roof. So really, no kind of maintenance that you need for that building. Some building are asking, give us a service contract or maintenance contract. There's nothing for us to do because you have the monitoring system. If there's any kind of ever problem with the system, immediately the system will send you an email, will send us an email. The product on the roof is guaranteed by the manufacturers. They'll pay us to replace, so there is no maintenance needed. We are going to do everything from A to Z. The system is going to be warranted for 110 miles per hour wind. 110 miles per hour wind is Hurricane 2. If we have over here more than Hurricane 2, we have some other issue to think of. But the best example, we had 2 hurricanes in the last few years. The last one, Sandy, you didn't hear anything about solar panel flying in the air. Actually, we have the record of installing the highest system ever built in North America on the Atelier building on 42nd Street. It's 46-story high. The wind gust over there was measured to 150 miles per hour wind through Sandy. Nothing happened to those panels. So you don't have to worry about anything for that. Any questions until now before we go to some more other details? Yes, sir.
Yeah, I was at the cogeneration seminar earlier and talking about the electricity, and I asked them about selling it back to the grid, back to Con Ed, and they said, no, absolutely not.
Correct. That's cogen. So when you do, I'm over here to talk about solar, but in cogen, you are getting reduced or subsidized amount of gas or price of gas to generate the turbine. Con Ed or the utility don't want to pay you a subsidized price for the gas so you can sell it back to them and get full return of this. So there's no net meter or no selling back to the utility in a cogen. This is not cogen. It's completely 2 different things, sir. Yes, sir.
What's the average output per square yard of solar?
Okay. So the question is how we determine the kind of production. It varies from building to building. Sun comes out in the east, goes down on the west. So we want to be as close as to southern exposure. Now, in terms of the tilt of the panel, we are in latitude 40.7. So you would think that if we put the panel at 40 degrees tilt, we'll be perpendicular to the sun. But the sun is high in the summer, low in the winter. The difference is about 15 degrees. So we want to be in the vicinity of 25 degrees and as close as we can to south. But if your building is not, south is azimuth 180. But the building actually faces 160. You cannot change the building. So in terms of 4.5 hours that I mentioned before, you'll have 4.4. So it's very individual to every building. There's no like one rule of thumb, what's going to produce. Optimal is about 20, so DC to A, the formula is, okay, you take the DC, multiply by 4.5 hours, multiply by 365 days, and then you have a D rate between DC and AC. The D rate factor is usually 23% down. So you multiply it by 0.77, you'll get the amount of kilowatt hour AC you're going to get over 365 days. Yes, sir.
What about keeping these surfaces clean and free of bird droppings?
Okay, good question. I mentioned no maintenance. That includes that. The rain, the dew at night, the snow, the wind, we'll always clean it. Don't do anything unless inside, actually next to this, you have a chimney that, pollutes a lot of stuff, and there's no good filtering on the chimney that will pollute the panel. Other than that, don't do anything. I want to mention just one more thing, because one of the questions that will come, like things on the panel, is snow. So number one, snow days is calculated in that 4.5 hours that I mentioned in the beginning. But as you well know, every electric environment creates a little heat. So the moment the solar panel going after the snowstorm is going to see just a little light, it's tilted, it's glass, it's going to be heated just a little, the snow will melt. Any roof with solar panels is going to melt snow much faster than any other roof without solar panels. Yes, please.
Do we need, if I'm dealing with a building that's built in the 1950s, does the roof need to be prepared a certain way for this type of equipment? Or
So what we do, we give 5 years warranty on our labor. Because if you're going to have a problem, you'll have it the first winter, the first summer, the first storm. We go the extra mile, and we are going to make sure that the roof, we don't want to shoot ourselves in the foot, installing, and now you have problem or leaks, anything. So we are going to infrared scan the roof to make sure that everything is okay. If we find small stuff, we are going to fix it ourselves, because I always say, no offense, I'm a little sarcastic, we tell customers after we install your system, we don't want to see you ever again. Every time we have to come back, it's going to cost us money because we give you the warranty. So we rather be precautious up front, take care of everything so we don't ever have to come back. So if it's a small stuff to fix on the roof that we see with the infrared scan, we are going to fix it. There's a lot of buildings that we came through the years that we saw that there's a problem. We cannot install. The roof is not going to last. So we bought a roofing company. We are GAF approved roofing company. We are going to install a new roof at cost, at our cost. You'll be able to get a cost from any other installer of roofing. You'll see we are the most competitive. Usually we do it at 50 because we do it at our cost, about 50% of the cost. You can actually integrate those kind of numbers into the solar, and then you get the incentive on this as well. I'm not over here to sell you roof. I'm over here like to speak about solar. So, but yes, we take care of it.
okay, so I'm assuming there are some legwork that will be done prior to.
Absolutely.
And what if at the end of that legwork, you're not able to install the solar?
We'll come and tell you before we go to sign a contract, we are going to inspect everything. We'll tell you up front, we can install as is with repairs, some small repairs at our expense, or you needed a new roof. And if you don't do a new roof, whatever is the reason, we shake hands and we go our ways.
Okay, so there's no cost on us.
No, on estimate, no. Yes, please.
Where are the panels manufactured?
Okay,
And are
it's a
you
good
in the
question.
solar panel manufacturing business as well?
No. So it's a very good question. We are not married to any kind of a solar brand. There are three points that actually guide us. Number one, tier one, top level. Like I said, we don't want to come back. We want to make sure they are considered one of the top tier of solar manufacturer. Number two is non-Chinese. Not because Chinese is bad, but you're getting a 25 years warranty. You want to make sure that if in 15 years you have to exercise the warranty, the company will still have presence in the US. So we avoid Chinese manufacture of panels. And again, no offense, it's not that it's bad. We want to guarantee that if you ever, solar is a long-term thinking. So if you have to exercise the warranty in 15 years, the company is here. The last point that guides us, that it's a company, that it's a diverse company, meaning they do other stuff other than solar. So before we use Sharp, then we use LG, currently we use Panasonic. All of those non-Chinese and diverse. The reason why diverse, if we are going to have another 2008 financial meltdown, a company that does only solar won't survive. A company that is diverse is going to survive. So if you in 10, 15, 20 years, you need to exercise, the company still in business, and you can exercise the warranty that you are getting.
So primarily you use Panasonic?
Right now, we changed to Panasonic. Until about a couple of months, LG right now has a problem because there's some kind of imports issue. So we want to make sure we have a continuous supply. This is why we changed to Panasonic. Yes, please.
What's the average life of a panel with normal wear and tear?
You are getting a 25 years warranty, okay? I would assume 30, 35. By the way, I want to give you another example for the, no, it's like relates to this, to your question. All the satellite turning the globe for 30 years are powered with solar panels. There is no kind of maintenance, there is no replacement, and it still works. That's the best example of no maintenance, of life expectancy of the power. I'm sorry? Yeah, but you have a lot of things flying over there. So the fact is, for 30 years, you don't have to do so. Better than that, you know. Yes, please.
What's the efficiency of the solar panels, and how fast is that improving?
Okay. So it's a good question. What's the efficiency? Efficiency in solar is watt per square feet. How many watt can you install per square feet? Right now, it's in the vicinity of 20 watt per square feet. That means 20%. If you came 5 years ago, it was 17. There's not that much improving. You heard lately that the Tesla came with those panels that you can actually use as shingles. This is done from thin film, or what is called the nanotechnology, and this is only producing 4 or 5 watt per square feet. That means to generate the same amount of power, you need 5 times more roof space that you don't have. The whole idea of new technology in solar is actually that nanotechnology. But nanotechnology is after utility scale because you need a lot of space. So they go to Arizona in the desert. Space doesn't mean anything. Or they go upstate New York, they take a mountain and they put over there the thin film. Space, again, doesn't mean, cost of land doesn't mean anything over there. So this is why thin film can be used over there. It's only like a couple of % cheaper. So going forward, we hear for years is going to be like the next generation increasing to closer to 50% efficiency. I am in this business since 2003. I hear it since then. Still not come. I don't believe it will come, to be honest, because I see what's happening every year. 1%, 0.5%, not more than that. Yes, sir.
So you're using silicon technology
Correct.
now, and the change that would come would have to be a thin film organic or some kind of.
No, what I believe, what is actually silicon? It's purified sand, you know? So the better purifying that sand, that's where you're going to increase. All the other technologies that were invented that there are is costing so much that it's not worth it. Like, I'm not talking like double, like 5 times or 10 times more to develop 1 square feet that absorbs the sunlight. So I don't think it's coming. That's my own opinion. No, you cannot, because then you have shade. Yes, sir.
There's been some issue over the past about firefighter safety on the roof, because many firefighters have to access the building through the roof, and you have high voltage panels up there that are active all the time.
Correct.
Has anything happened with that?
So the problem is the firefighter that there is lack of knowledge, okay? Because there is certain rules how we live on each one of the roofs, a clear path for the firefighter. And the fire department develop kind of all kinds of rule, which is actually more detailed than anywhere else in the country. So for example, they need New York City is a 6 feet clear path. Anywhere nationwide, it's 3 feet. So there is no problem over there. Another thing with the system, with those optimizer, they're afraid to get hit or electrocuted. Once those optimizers are connected, the moment there's any kind of a problem, you disconnect one, it's going to 1 volt. 1 volt is no problem, you can touch, nothing will ever happen to you. It's more of a knowledge. So there is a couple of installers, us among them, that actually provided to the FDNY will come to the station and will teach them what should they be aware. Also, on every roof, there is a safety switch. So in terms of safety for firefighters, there is no problem whatsoever. Yes, sir.
On that theme, for maintenance people that go on the roof,
Yes.
how do you handle that properly? I wasn't aware there's high voltage. I thought it was, there is actually, you run high voltage on the roof?
Yes, you run a very high voltage on the roof and it's DC. But there is no problem because one of the panels because each panel is going to be disconnected for any kind of a reason, it's dropped down to 1 volt. So there is no safety issue for maintenance guy, for nobody. That's part, and you have a main switch on the roof itself that you can disconnect. Either you can disconnect the whole array, or you actually have it in sections, in strings. Over here, string over there. You can actually identify which section you want to disconnect. And once you disconnect, it goes down to 1 volt. Yes?
In that situation, once you disconnect, is it easy to just turn back on and it goes
It's
back?
a hand
It's no big deal.
On, off.
Nothing has to be removed.
Nothing,
take a lot of
zero.
time.
Nothing, zero.
Like,
By the
you
way,
have to turn off quickly, finish.
no, by the way, the system is going to sleep every night because there's no light, and going to start every day when light starts out there. So every day it's on and off, on and off, on and off. No problem with that. Any more questions before we'll go to the numbers? Okay. So the first thing we want to show you over here, let's say you put a 50 kilowatt DC on the roof. Assuming you are paying 15 cents per kilowatt, that include energy and delivery. And when we say 15 cents, this excluded the demand charge. I'm not sure if everybody knows what's the demand. If you look on any bill for Con Ed, you'll see you have a demand charge. Demand charge, let's say you have an elevator. So whenever the elevator starts, any kind of machinery, you have a surge of electricity that you pull from the utility for a couple of seconds or couple of minutes, and then it evens up. The utility comes and say, look, we give you the infrastructure, then whenever you need that peak demand, you have it 24/7, but we can charge you only those few minutes or few seconds every day. That's not fair. So that measuring interval of 30 minutes over 30 days of the peak demand, of that demand, and they'll give you another charge. The reason why we take it out of this equation, because we don't know when is your peak demand going to happen. For example, one of the tenants decides in the middle of the night to have a party, and the elevator goes up and down the whole night. Your peak demand is going to be in the middle of the night. Solar won't do anything because there's no light out there. We can tell you that based on history, we have a lot of buildings we've done, we are going to offset in the vicinity of 15% of your peak demand. But it's not something that we can give you in kind of an equation because it varies and every month it's different and actually every year it's going to be different. So the The 15 cents is net delivery and kilowatt and the energy with this. With demand, by the way, usually it's about 20, in the vicinity of 20 cents. So 5 cents is for demand. So if we put 50 kilowatt system, we are going to generate annually 56,000, I'll talk in round numbers, 56,000 kilowatt annually. The space we'll need on the roof net after the fire department clear pass is about 3,800 square feet. The total system cost is $177,000. You're going to get a rebate from NYSERDA. You can assign that rebate to us as installer, $30,000. So your initial out-of-pocket is only $147,000. By the way, that kind of rebate from NYSERDA is, when you assign it to us, it's a great protection for you. You see, it's almost 20% of the total cost. NYSERDA is going to release the money to us only once the system is up and running and tested, and everything that we said in writing really works in real life. So that's the time they're going to release those $30,000. So your initial out-of-pocket is $147,000. You are entitled to $53,000 of federal tax credit as a co-op owner or as condo owner. How does this go? It's for each one of the shareholder by the amount of his share in the total building. So let's say you have 10% of the total 10% of the total building. You are entitled to 10% of 53,000 on your personal tax return. Okay, so that whoever have that 10% is entitled to $5,000 on his private or personal tax return. Now let's say that year you took a year vacation, you don't have any liability, you can stretch it over 6 years. So when you're talking about the building and divided by all of them, usually it's in the vicinity of $1,000 here and there, based on our experience. Okay? $1,000 of tax liability, I don't think it's a big thing. By the way, it's a credit, it's not a deduction. So it's a dollar-to-dollar liability. So whatever you see, that's actually what you get as a credit from the IRS. The next line, you're getting the same kind of credit from New York State. This is capped up to 50,000 kilowatt. So there's a way how to calculate it. Basically, it's $36,000. So again, that person who has 10% is going to have $3,600 state tax credit. And again, it's a credit, it's not a deduction, so it's a dollar-to-dollar. The next line is yearly utility bill saving, which is $8,500. The way it's calculated, we said on the top you're paying 15 cents per kilowatt. We are going to generate 56,000 kilowatt. So 15 cents multiplied by 56,000 kilowatt equals to $8,500. You'll see that every year there is an escalation. We actually put over here an escalation of 3.7% every year. The data shows that in downstate, the escalation is more like 7%. We want to be conservative. This is why we take only 3.7% of escalation for every year. One thing that we don't take in consideration over here, I'm sure you all heard that Indian Point is going to be closed in 2019. Once Indian Point is going to be closed, there's no alternative. The only alternative is going to import more power because there are no new power stations being built. That means the cost of electricity is going to be much higher. We don't have the crystal ball. We don't know exactly how. But if you are going to actually look at it, you will understand that your saving will be much faster and your return of investment will be much faster. The last line over here in terms of benefit is New York City property tax abatement. Every building is entitled to 20% on the net cost over 4 years. That means 5% a year, every year for the first 4 years. We take care of it with the building department. Once we ask for the permit, you don't have to do anything about that. So basically, you're getting $7,300 as a tax credit, reduction on your taxes liability for 4 years to New York City. So if you calculate everything over here, you see from an initial cost to one of 177, you are down to 41,000 on the first year. This is almost 70% subsidy. With 70% subsidy, you cannot go wrong. Second year, you have $8,800 of saving of electricity. You still have on the second year the saving of or credit from the tax, New York City property tax. It's another 73. So basically on the second year, you have a positive cash flow of $16,000. But you are carrying on the first year a negative cash flow of 41. You deduct the 16 from the 41, you are down to 25. Same goes for the third year. You have a positive cash flow of $16,000. You carry from the second year 25. You deduct the 16, you are down to 8,000. On the fourth year, you're already in positive cash flow. That means it's a 3 years return of investment. 3 years return of investment is 33% on your money, and it's on your money guaranteed. Where can you get 33% guaranteed on your money? And when I say guaranteed, as long as you use the electricity, it's guaranteed. So you're definitely going to use that electricity. You can actually see that after 10 years, on top of having free electricity, you have in your pocket another $72,000 in your pocket. That number speaks for himself. You know, people ask, so how can we understand solar? When we buy something, we either want to touch it, feel it, or we want to visualize it. Solar is electricity. You cannot touch. It's very hard to visualize. It's a numbers game. So if you understand those numbers, that's the home run. Any question? If not, I want to show you an option for financing. Yes, please.
Okay, so what you're showing, based on the way you spoke, it seems as if it's all these costs are associated to the building as a whole, correct?
Correct. That's for the public usage.
So if we're dealing with a multi-family building that where each individual unit pay their own electricity, how will something like this benefit them? Or will they need to go on a centralized?
Okay, so the question is, how can individual benefit from this? I'll divide it into two. On any kind of a multifamily building, you have also a public usage, the elevator, the hallway, if you have a laundry room, all kinds of things that everybody, which is kind of the common area which is being used. So first of all, you want to offset that. If you want to offset also some of the tenant who lives in the building, we'll build a bigger system and we'll tell Con Ed, look, you have an apartment, you have air conditioning and you use it the whole time. But another tenant doesn't use his air conditioning at all, he's fine. So you are a bigger user than him. It's not fair between you and him that will offset yours more and will offset him less. So basically, we calculate the total and we tell Con Ed, divide it as a credit to each one of the tenants evenly. So let's say we know that we are going to do, let's say the building has 10 tenants. I'm just giving round numbers, okay? And we are going to install 100, okay? So we tell them, after the PLP, give a credit of 1,000 kilowatt hour to each one of the tenant evenly. And it doesn't mean how much you use or you don't use. Usually an apartment uses $3,000 to $6,000 kilowatt. So we can offset each one of the tenant individually by at least 1,000 kilowatt hour or more. So there's no problem for this, and each one gets that credit. That calls, by the way, community solar.
So just to go back, what you described is more for the common areas.
Whatever I give over here is common area, yes. But let's say you have, because of the low efficiency, which is 20%, most buildings don't have enough space on the roof for the common area and all the individual. Unless you have a low building, like 2 or 3 story, no elevator, spread onto a lot of space, then that's the time that we can offset some of the tenants because your common area is low and you have a lot of roof space. Yes, sir. What we recommend to everybody, will be happy to do an assessment for your particular building. We ask that you send us your Con Ed bill. Okay, one Con Ed bill. What we do, we actually go to the Con Ed database. We are going to retrieve how many kilowatts you used in the last 12 months. We have a special program that we can actually zoom into your roof, so we know how much available space with all the regulation, FDNY, DOB that we have over there. And we do kind of reverse engineering, and we'll design a system over there. We'll create something particular to your building, we'll give it to you, and then you'll decide this is free, and then you'll decide go, no go. This is a generic, we have to see what do we offset. Do you need more? Do you need less? Maybe you don't need 50 kilowatt.
I have one follow-up question.
Sure.
I didn't see in the previous images that there were any roof decks. Is that something that you recommend if there's a roof deck or if you're planning on building one?
So if you have a roof deck, put it on the side. You'll tell us, okay, this is, we want to put on the side, don't do any solar panels over here. We just want to put a new roof deck. One thing I can tell you, because years ago we did a lot of solar panels in Harlem and they did a roof deck. They don't want a roof deck because you're taking a big liability. People go up to smoke, they drink. There's all kinds of other things that the building takes liability. Think about, again, we are not over here to suggest do or not do. I just can tell you based on experience what other building owners told us. We have to finish very soon. I just got the message over here. So I want to show you just one more option and then we'll open it to more questions. So let's say you say, well, we don't have money right now, but we want to finance the system. Remember, you have 33% return of investment. So if you're going to pay 6% interest, you still have a spread of about 27% because 33% return of investment. So let's say you borrow the money and you can prove to a financier that you are bankable, you are good for the money. He is going to lend you the $147,000. Remember, the 147 is after the rebate by NYSERDA. So that's the money that you have actually to finance. If you have to finance it over 7 years at 6% interest, that means $2,100 per month that you have to pay. $2,100 per month is $25,000 per year. So your liability per year is $25,000. You own, it's a financial, it's a capital loan. It's not an operating loan. That means you own the system on day one. It's like a bank loan. So if you own the system on day one, you are entitled to all the benefit. So you have to pay the annual out-of-pocket is $25,000. You still have all the benefit because you own the system. So basically on the first year, you are in positive cash flow of $80,000. On the second year, you still have to pay $25,000 for the loan. We said before you have about 16 positive, less than the 25. Basically, on the second year, for the year itself, you're in a negative cash flow of $9,000. But you are carrying a positive cash flow of $80,000 on the first year. So the second year, you're at the $70,000, still at positive cash flow. Third year goes the same. You have 16,000 positive. You are carrying $70,000 positive from the first year. So in the third year, you are again with $9,000 negative cash flow for that particular year. So now you're down to 61. You can see the whole 7 years, all the benefit that you have on day one, the $80,000, pays for the loan. So basically, you can acquire in 7 years a system with never money out of pocket. The benefit or the subsidy is going to pay for the system over 7 years. And then in year 8, you don't owe any more money, so you're up again to $16,000. And then after 10 years, you are $39,000 positive cash flow, meaning you have never been with negative cash flow. Again, like I said in the beginning, it's all the numbers. So you have to understand the numbers to understand how it's going. Any questions?
How big does size the roof?
The question was what would it offset, what size? You can have a big building with no electricity usage, and you have a very small building with huge electricity usage. So there is no rule of thumb. You have a very old elevator, okay? You know, it consumes more electricity, you'll need more. You have a brand new elevator, okay? So you change all the lights to LED, you'll use less. You didn't change to LED, you'll use more. There's no rule per apartment or per square feet or per amount of tenant. Because like I said, you can have a building like this with very small electricity, but you can also have a building like this with huge electricity. So there is no rule of thumb. Yes, sir.
When I investigated a year ago about solar for a place in West Hampton Beach, Suffolk County, and it's a condo, I was told by the companies that you're not going to get all of these credits because you're a condo. Is there any truth to that?
No, but sir, I'll be more than happy to send you the reference from New York State that you can, everything that I said over here, we'll be more than happy to send you the references so you can check it yourself. All right, there is a good, I forgot come to the booth after, we'll give you, there's one website by the Energy Department, and they give you all of that. I forgot the name of that website, that you'll be able to see everything. Any more questions? Yes?
Please pardon my ignorance. May I assume that since this is a solar panel, so it's working with the sun, am I correct?
Sunlight.
Sunlight. So in the winter months, if we don't have enough sunlight, then we're not going to be getting some of these cost savings.
This is why we calculated to begin with on average 4.5 hours, on average of 365 days. So December, look at October of this year. Last October, we had also nice bright skies. The year before, it was completely raining and a lot of cloud. But it averaged, like the example I gave in the beginning, that June is the longest daylight, June 21st, that it was cloudy and less daylight. But that year in December, that usually you have a lot of cloud, it compensated because you had nice bright skies. So everything is being calculated on an average of 365 days.
Okay, so it's 4.5 hours per day?
Per day. It's an average. You have snow days, you have bright days, you have cloudy days, you have nice bright days. And that data for the last 30 years, according to the Energy Department, and if you go on the Energy Department, they'll have the amount of light hours. By the way, the amount of light hours is per latitude. Okay? The closer you are to the equator, you'll have more light hours. Once you go more to the north, you'll have less. Okay? So Florida is about 5.5. Arizona is 5.2. Canada is 3.9. Yes, please.
So with the rebate from the federal government, New York, state, New York City, the credits, are they based on the amount of energy that's produced, or is it based on the cost of the installation?
It's based on cost of the installation per kilowatt installed, okay? But there is a threshold. So we have to ideal to be at least 80% to ideal. So if you have a building over here, but there's a building over here, okay, that is going to create shade the whole afternoon, and 50% of the day is going to shade the roof, you're going to get much less. So NYSERDA is not going, they are the first entity, they're not going to approve everything because you are less than 80% than ideal. So we have to make sure that we design a system and build it at 80% to ideal. Yes, sir.
I was wondering, has anybody ever invented, or why has anybody invented, a system that has some motors around the panels to, go up in the winter?
Okay, so it's a good question. Why don't we tilt the system? So we said the sun comes up in the morning, goes down in the afternoon, and actually the tilt change because in the morning it's low, and then at noontime it's very high. Now you kind of need, now you have moving parts. You have moving parts to follow the style, double X, up and down, left and right, okay? So if you need that, now you're going to have maintenance, number one. Number two, you cannot have it on the roof. So just think on a surface, okay, like this, and this is the panel. Once you tilt it, you need way more space on the roof, okay, because it turns after the sun. And then you need something to pivot it, okay? You cannot do it on a building. Can only be a ground mount, because you cannot do with one pole that everything. So for buildings, no good. Yes, you are going to get, it does exist. So people out in farms do that. You get 30% more of efficiency, okay? But now you have a lot of maintenance because think, almost 24/7, 365, you have moving parts. Every year you have to take it apart, you have to do a maintenance, okay? And then it's very expensive to put it because you have to go very deep in the ground to hold something like a huge array. Yes, sir.
Can the solar systems in buildings in Manhattan, Queens, exist with cogen systems?
Yes and no. Yes, of course, because this is a source and this is a source. No, because it's always a problem of how much of a system of a solar you're going to do. Con Ed won't allow you to put a net meter when you have cogen. The reason why? They're afraid at one point, and that's what I answered that gentleman in the beginning, you're getting a subsidized gas. You're going to generate power, send back to the grid to get credit, but they subsidize the gas to generate on a cogen. So they won't do. So we have to kind of do any kind of a system that won't have net meter, that between cogen and solar, you'll offset 100%, not more ever than 100% of your last 12 months usage.
So then we should be deciding whether cogen is better than solar or solar is better than us, and go with one of them.
I believe so, but you can do, but there's another thing that you have to think. The source of energy for solar is the sun, it's free. The source of energy for a cogen is gas, it's still costing you money. And to my knowledge, in cogen you have a lot of maintenance because actually you have an engine that works 24/7, 365 days. Every year maintenance, every 5 years you have to rebuild it from the beginning. Yes. Just think on an engine of a car, okay, that works, okay, 24/7 for 5 years, 365 days. The engine is going to be ruined.
Is there a way to store energy that is being actually...
Okay, it's a very good question. Okay, what about batteries? What about storage? So what you heard, like Elon Musk, Tesla with the battery, it's an excellent idea because basically you're going to store the energy and then you're going you are out of the grid. The problem right now with batteries, it's too new for houses. I would wait 3 to 5 years to make sure all the bugs are out. Usually when you buy something, you're waiting like a medicine, you're waiting like at least 5 years, all the bugs are out. The future, yes, it's definitely batteries. This is why, by the way, we use solar edge inverters because they are ready already to install battery. So once that's going to be in effect for almost every building, you're ready to go to charge the batteries. There's another problem, and you mentioned, sir, the FDNY. FDNY doesn't know how to handle batteries. They're afraid of fire. So there are so many rules and regulation right now that are still in the phase of learning. So if you're going to have an application today for batteries, the first thing they'll say no. Not because it's bad, but because they don't know enough.
It's not here yet.
Yes, but it is coming. There's also another thing with technology. When you have a big building, how would I explain? Let's say you have a bucket, and the bucket has 10 gallons, and you have a hose that you need to connect out of it of 3 gallons. The bucket is 10 gallons, but you can take out only 3 gallons an hour. It's not enough. You need 10 gallons. This is why you have a bucket. So this kind of things has to be improved, and it is improving, okay? But it's still kind of a problem. Yes, please.
I know this is not how you operate, but some companies will do all this and reap the benefits somehow of the energy and not charge for the work.
Okay.
How do they do that?
So these for private houses, I'm sorry, maybe it's not political correct. They're taking people for a ride, in my opinion. So all the private houses, if you read, so what they say, okay, you have a $200 a month of a bill. They're going to come and put the solar system on your roof. You are going to pay them the electricity, and they give it to you in a discount. So from now on, instead of $150, you pay, I'm sorry, $200, you pay only $170. You save $30 a month, and basically you pay them and you reduce without investing a penny into it. If you read the fine print, you're obligated to 20 years to pay them to use their system so they can be repaid. And you'll see there's also an escalation of 3%. We discussed 3.7. But if you read the fine print, if there's 1 year with a high inflation, you have to attach it to the index. With all the money that was printed in the last few years, the only way to offset that is 1 year of high inflation. That's what Reagan did a few years ago, okay? We got to 1 year of 18%, all right? The index was. That 1 year that is going to attach to the index, you are going to surpass the rate of the utility. So now, in today's prices, instead of paying $200, you are going to pay $230 because you're obligated to 20 years. Another thing, all those companies are basically, they sell you money. Then they bulk it. It's in Wall Street. They sell it one to the other, one to the other. Tomorrow you have a problem. You call the company, hey, there's a problem over here. Something is not right. I'm sorry, we sold it to that company. You call that, oh, I'm sorry, we sold it. So in my opinion, it's going to explode big time. And this is why we don't touch it. There is another thing for big commercial, which is called PPA. Actually, they're doing a semi-PPA. PPA, purchase price agreement, works almost the same. But then again, a company comes and they want to make money on the money. So they are trying to do the EPC, to build up the system in the cheapest way. I don't believe in the cheapest way to build the solar because it's a long-term thinking, okay? It should last 25 years that you don't touch anything. When you're looking for the cheapest, what you pay is what you get. Yes, sir.
For people going back to batteries, for people that are still using batteries, are they basically still raised automotive cap batteries?
No, it's completely different. If you go online, Tesla developed and LG developed these what they call a wall. Now it looks very nice. You actually hang it on the wall. It looks like a picture, and it's an outdoor, so it's completely different technology of batteries. Some of them, yes. And this is why there's a problem of fire. And this is why there's a problem with the fire department. Yeah. All right. Sure. Yes, sir.
I just want to make sure is that solar is not going to handle the whole electricity load. It's going to handle a good portion. Is that correct?
Depending how much space you have on the roof. We can go up to 110% of last year. All right? We'll try to offset up to about 100% of what you can, depending on the space you have on the roof. This is why we go first to ConEd to analyze what do you need on the last 12 months, so to tell you, here's what we can do. Yeah, it's one card. It's very heavy. That's how you remember us. I don't have any more cards, so you can come to our booth. What did you say, sir? Is our booth 424? Thank you. All right. Thank you very much for coming.